Can you believe it's already been almost 6 months since Smash Bros. Ultimate came out? Which also means it's been 6 months since our behind-the-scenes developer secrets, tricks, and shortcuts video, in which we use a pause screen camera to reveal all kinds of things you were never meant to see. Now, we already covered most of the big stuff back then, so if you missed those videos, please check them out, they're pretty cool. However, thanks to a new update tonight, the Labo VR update that hit Smash Bros. Ultimate, we've been able to find some all-new things. Now, most of them are pretty common, so don't hold out for any major secrets, but some of them are pretty interesting and gives you a better idea how they constructed these stages. Because with Labo VR, you're actually able to look all around the environment using head tracking, including spinning around a full 360 degrees. Now, while in some stages you can do that, while it seems like it was meant to work that way in some stages, like where you can rotate the full 360 degrees without issue, most of the stages actually fade to black before you can complete your full turn, or before you turn 180 degrees. However, if you moderate your speed just right, you can actually catch more glimpses of the environment if you go at just the right speed. So that's what we did here, and I took a whole bunch of pictures as I played around for a couple of hours in most of the stages to showcase my findings. So a couple quick things. Unfortunately, we are stuck with screenshots because we can't take any videos in-game using handheld mode. Even the in-game capture doesn't work at all, which is a bit of a bummer, so you're kind of stuck with these low quality screenshots that are side by side as if you were in VR mode. So I apologize for that, and it's part of the reason why I'm doing this off the cuff too. Just because it's already low quality, so I might as well just lean into that and do this entire thing in kind of a haphazard manner. So with that out of the way, let's get to it. And right off the bat, one of the first stages I went to was a Figure 8 Mario Kart 8 track. And that's because one of the things we couldn't showcase before was a track in its entirety. We got close, but we were never able to position the camera quite right. We could only see the front half of the 8 and never the full back half. But with Labo VR, we can do exactly that now, where if we turn around, we can see the entire back half before it fades to black. You can see the bleachers on the right, and there's a back half of the 8, and then we can also see the background here and how the clouds and mountains in the middle just kind of cut off at some point. So yeah, that's something we're going to be seeing a lot of as we move forward through the next few courses. Alright, continuing on here, and we can also see the track from a lower angle too, if you're curious what that looks like. Next up, we're gonna head to Congo Jungle. I believe it what it's called. Forgive me if I screw up some of these names. It's getting late and it's been a little while since I played Smash. So yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful course. But again, it's kind of cool when you turn the camera and you can see how it was built, because we can see that it actually cuts off at some point and it looks like the river almost becomes a waterfall. The trees come to a complete end and it just goes to the sunset in the background, because which is mapped to a skybox. So that's what you're left with. It's just a skybox itself. Again, that's something we'll be seeing a lot of. Now, speaking of the skybox, though, if you look up, which you may have just saw a moment ago, we can see this weird sunburst thing in the sky. I don't know what's going on here. It almost looks like an eclipse or something going supernova. Maybe the world's about to end. I don't know. But yeah, this is weird graphical effect going on up there, which as far as I can tell doesn't impact anything else going on around here. So maybe someone else has more insight into what exactly is going on. It's the only stage I found that effect in, so I'm pretty baffled by it, but it's interesting all the same. And again, I just love how this course looks. Even in low resolution VR, in crappy JPEG screenshot quality, it looks great. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the next course, and you can see more of the background here. Next stage is Gower Plains. Now this is one we've showcased a fair amount before as well, but we get a better look at how the exterior, or the the outer edges of it work now. Where you can see it again just straight up cuts off, but in this case we don't even see the skybox, it just goes to black. They didn't even bother with anything beyond this. So it makes you wonder, or makes me wonder, why they decide, what techniques they decide to use for certain stages. Why isn't there a whole skybox in this one, whereas there is in Congo Jungle, for instance? It's pretty interesting. The environment itself cuts off as well. We can see a better look at it here, how the water as well cuts off, very angular-like. Which is something you would probably never find in nature, especially in a black abyss. There's another look at it. And there's another vantage point as well. I think this is of the left side, where you can see how it cuts off too. So, anyways, here is Magicant, and nothing too major here, but when you look off to the side, you can actually see Dungeon Man just standing out there. And even more than that, you can see how when he walks, it's not on the ground at all. Like, he's just floating well above it. So it kind of ruins that effect. Again, we can see how the environment cuts off in the exact same way as before. You can see the top of the sky there, and there's just abyss beyond. Same thing for the other side. And there's another look at it too. couple looks. Alright, here's the pirate ship stage, and this is one we already got a pretty good look at before in our previous set of videos, but we noticed some really interesting things here too. For one, we can get a better look at the sky above, and we see something kind of similar to Donkey Kong, but not quite. We can see like a hole above. In this case though, the reason the hole's there is because they actually travel up through it at some point, even when the tornado comes through. Now, in this case, we can't see anything above it yet, but we will once you start flying up toward it. So, and when you come flying back down, you can similarly look down. So here we are in the sky, and you can look straight down now and get a better look at you approaching the ground. We were able to kind of do this before without Labo VR, but again, it's much easier to do now. And plus, you can actually watch it in motion if you have CPUs battle. So you can do that for every stage now, which is really cool. You can get these cool angles, watch it in at normal speed at whatever angle you want with Labo VR. It's really neat. Now, something else that's cool about this stage, as I kind of touched on earlier, it's one of the few stages that actually supports a full 360 degrees, in that the game won't go to black at any point. You can look all around you, and in this case, we can see there are islands even behind you. So, that's, just a neat little detail. It's cool that they allowed us to see more of the environment when, it worked out. So there's a part where I went to black, so I guess maybe it did go black at some point during this stage. I forget, it might have been while I was traveling, I think when I was looking up or something, I forget exactly what happened there. Anyways, because I'm traveling here, so I think when I'm looking down maybe. I remember now, it's when I'm in the sky. Okay, so I take it back actually, so we could do a full 360 degrees down below. Up above though, we only could do 180 before it cut us off if I remember correctly. So, pretty interesting stuff. Continuing on, we will go on to Demores Island. And let's see here, what do we find here? Oh, this is another, I think, full 360 degree stage, and I think I just wanted to showcase how, again, this is a perfect showcase for how detailed these stages are. Now in this case, there's nothing major here, but we do get the full backdrop with the sky and the water, and it's just neat, again, that they gave us a full 360 degrees. Otherwise, not a whole lot to see here, so we're going to continue onward. You know what? Oh man, maybe this one went to black too. So apologies for that if that's the case. Yeah, maybe, so I guess that one wasn't full 360. I think I remember now. The reason why I took pictures was because I was surprised why I wasn't full 360 degrees, because there's no reason why I shouldn't be. So yeah, that's why I took that picture. Anyways, moving on. This to New Donk City, which is definitely a full 360 degree stage, which is weird because it's one where I feel like it shouldn't be, because we can see where the environment clearly cuts off here, both to the side and behind us. So we're looking up the tower right here. If we look down, we get a better look at the city in the distance, to the side rather. We can also see Pauline already floating way out in the distance, quite some ways, and we can watch her as she comes in closer. Now here we can see, as we're higher up, we can better see how the environment cuts off. So they're rendering a very small portion of New Donk City. Now I already pointed this out in our previous video, but we got a better look at it here, including the weird foggy backdrop that separates it from the city in the far background. Yeah, just kind of interesting how little the city's there, yet how there's more in the background. So we get another look at it here, how angular the block we're on is. You can also see how even the background city, the polygonal section, is separated from the 2D backdrop behind it. So again, just another kind of interesting look at how they construct these stages. All right, here we have Moray Towers, and this one's interesting because we can better see like the arch of how this one cuts off, like how it looks more like it wraps around us, as opposed to some of the other stages that were built more like a diorama box type thing, or diorama. So here, yeah, we can see like the black abyss is more of a dome type thing. Same thing on the other side. It almost looks like some kind of like building, like a silhouetted building almost. Like a Sydney Opera House or something. Not quite as cool looking, but yeah, there you go. Here we have Draculas Castle, and this one I just thought was cool because we get a better look at the castle itself, both above as well as down below. We can see how far down it goes. This is something we can see in Luigi's Mansion as well. I didn't grab screenshots for it, but again, I just liked how this looked. We can see the clock tower too, how far down that goes. Nothing too special here, but just thought I'd point that out. Okay, Big Blue. So this is something, again, I talked about before, but this lets us see it better in motion, or at least it will if you do it yourself, because again, I'm stuck with screenshots here, so apologies for that. So a few interesting things about this course is, one, we can better see, when in motion, you can see how things just pop up in the distance. Like you can see where the game just loads them into place, and we can see that with the islands there. Oh, actually, they're pretty far off there. Hold on. There's some. Maybe I didn't get a good picture of it, but just go with me here. You can see where the track loads and where the islands load, and all kinds of stuff like that. Then we can see where, if you look behind you in this case, in this stage, which I think, is this also a 360-degree stage? I think it might be. You can see where the water cuts off and where the background just takes over. Now again, this is something you would never see in the game itself. Anything behind you would never see, to this degree at least, and I don't think Big Blue lets see anywhere close to this. We get a better look at it when we go upside down too, when I turn the camera around, and there it is. You can see how the water cuts off, which doesn't happen in the other direction, the normal direction. You don't see it cut off in that same abrupt manner. Also, by the way, going upside down in VR is pretty cool. Also, it might make you sick, so keep that in mind. And there's another look at just the track, how you can see, you can just look way down the track and see everything appearing as you're going down, which is really neat. Okay, on it. Again, something we touched on before, I mentioned how there's more details in the foreground that you can't see if you zoom the camera far back. You can just barely see some of them, including a baseball diamond, which we could never really get a great look at. But now we can see the thing in full, and we can see there's one of the plates there. Now we can see most of the field here, and I think we get another one. There it is, and now there's almost the entire thing. You can see how it just kind of cuts off the road, just drops off to an abyss. So I really hope no cars ever go down that route. And again, there is a backdrop here as opposed to pure black. So yeah, I would again love to know what the rationale is for some of those choices. Yeah, another look at it. You can see how far back it really goes compared to the city and where the camera normally is. Like, it never zooms that far out. So again, it's really interesting that they built it that far back. Here's Foreside. Nothing major that we did point out before, but I just want to show you how easy it is to look down and just again see how deep these buildings go. So definitely play around with it yourself. It's really cool just to get new angles on these familiar stages. Now here's something interesting. Now I'd covered this stage before, or I'm pretty sure I did, and if not, I took a look at it, being Corneria. And a couple of things. One, if you look up, you can see a sun, which you can't see in-game itself, or what looks to be a sun. With some weird lens flare effects going on. Second is when you look to the side, I never realized this before, so it looks like you're flying toward that distant island in the background, right? A continuation of Corneria, and I thought it just looped. So like you'd fly there and then you would keep flying to the next one, which is really the same thing as the current one you're on, but it just keeps looping, on an endless cycle. But as it turns out, that's actually a backdrop. And the actual terrain you fly over loads well before you reach it, because you'll never reach it. It always stays in the background, and it's only the terrain that pops up in front of it that's a part that cycles. So I didn't realize that. I was close to what was happening, but I didn't realize that it worked similar to like how Spirit Tracks worked. Except even more interesting is how they kind of hide the loading better, because I just assumed that the background was the one you're flying towards. So yeah, it basically pops in sooner than I expected it to. So yeah, pretty cool. Again, you'll never reach that backdrop, which is actually pretty fitting actually for Star Fox, because in the original Star Fox on Super Nintendo, there's a backdrop like with mountains in the background, and you never reach them. So this is actually more true to how that game works than I think even the developers realized. Moving on, I just thought it'd be cool to take a look down at Corneria as we fly over it. This is something you can't really do in the game itself, especially in motion, so it's pretty neat to see just the detail on the buildings, and they seem to be fully textured as far as I can tell from every angle. Alright, here we go. Sky, what's it called? Rainbow Cruise. So this one has a couple of interesting things, I think, or maybe just one. No, it has two. So, for one, again, it kind of cuts off in the same way, but this one is really well rendered, like, all around it. Like, this is just a beautiful course all over. I just love how this course looks. And the sky wraps entirely around the stage, by the way, even behind you. And it's actually on a, you can't see it here, but it's actually almost like on a treadmill, or almost like a stage play effect, where they'd have like a sky scroll on the background. That's exactly how it works here. That sky just goes in a giant loop around. But as part of that, sorry, I keep going back to Corneria. As part of that, there's this weird divide behind you. If you look behind you, you will see this weird part where it doesn't quite match up and where it overlaps on itself. And I grabbed a couple pictures of it. So I'm not quite sure why they didn't quite get it to match up. I mean, it doesn't really matter that they didn't. I just thought it was interesting where it's not quite perfect. There's a seam there where it duplicates itself briefly. There's another look at it, so... Yep. Yeah, even go. I kind of animated there for you. There you go. See, you can kind of see it if I go back and forth. You're welcome. Alright, here's Final Destination. And nothing too much to say about this one. Again, it's a cool looking course in VR. You can look behind you, there's a surprising amount going on. It almost looks like, you can barely see here, but it was going to black as I was trying to do this. But it almost looks like there's like a vortex or like a black hole behind you with the way it's shaped. Again, it's probably just like the typical hole we have been seeing, but it's smaller than the others. And it kind of seems to fit the space theme. So yeah, I got a whole bunch of black screens here. Here's a kind of a better look at it. Again, dark, unfortunately, so I apologize for that. Here is I think, I'm still facing at the front here. So during this sequence where this weird graphical effect happens, if you look behind you, oh, I didn't grab a good picture of it, but basically you can see the exact same thing behind you as well, which I didn't quite expect. So yeah, you see more of this than I expected to. Moving on to the original, the old school Mushroom Kingdom. Nothing too major here either. A couple details though. For one, we can finally get a much better look at the no symbol, which is just a cool little touch. It's in the original Smash Bros. 64 as well. It's pretty difficult to see though, if I remember correctly, but we get a much better look at it here, of course. I can just zoom in right on it. And this basically shows where the exact KO boundary is, where the walk-off boundary is. It's something you would almost, I don't think you ever actually see during gameplay itself without manipulating the camera. So it's just a neat little Easter egg that's there, and we get a better look at it here, of course. Zooming out, we can see that the mountains, the hills, as well as the clouds continue on the back wall. It's a little bit hard to see here, but on the right there, that's actually a wall. And it's just mapped onto it. So yeah, it's kind of a weird perspective thing going on here. Again, something you never see during an actual match because the camera's always facing away. Let's see, we have Pikmin 3, I forget what this stage is called. And here we can see how this was designed very oddly, where it cuts off and had this weird extension going on there. I'm not quite sure why it has that. And if you look up, you can see where the background like kind of just merges all together into this weird concave thing. I don't know how to describe it. It just looks weird and not great, but again, it's something you would never see. Yeah, this is the other side of the stage. This is the right side of the stage, and you can see how it has like, this one has a more, I think a little more typical look to it, how it ends abruptly. But again, it's got this weird cutout thing too. So I'm not quite sure why they did it this way. I don't know if there's different angles maybe, where you need that extension along the top for it to not become visible. But yeah, there you go. You can also see where the ground cuts off too, as some of the background's visible behind it. On the bottom right there. Termina Bay, if I remember correctly, if that's the name. Majora's Mask. We can see again how it cuts off here. This is a beautiful stage. And even when it gets cut off here, there's an odd beauty to it. I don't know, it's like some kind of like abstract art type thing. But yeah, love the stage. We've covered some cool details about this before, so check those old videos out if you haven't already. Otherwise, not a whole lot else to say. We can see how it cuts off again on the other side. And for what, I think it's just water that makes it look so good. I don't know, I just love how this looks. It's very weird. I took a picture of this just to show you how long I was in VR mode, because unlike the other VR games, it takes a while for this message to appear in Smash Bros. VR for whatever reason. I think it was probably 45 minutes to an hour before that message popped up, or so it seemed. I think we're getting close to the end here. This is, I think, is this Summit? I think it's called, the Ice Climber stage. And this one's cool because you get different angles on the on this iceberg thing as it starts rolling down the mountain, and we can see that here, and we can see how like there's an abrupt cutoff again that separates the area we're in now from the you know, from the background in the area far below. Again, you can get a better look at this in the game itself. The slightly different angle. This is us going down the mountain. Whee! As we crash land into the water there. Yeah, nothing too noteworthy here, but again, it's fun to check out yourself in motion. Here we are in a town and city. And this is a stage we covered before, but we can get better angles of it now. And you can see how the houses on the backside, as we're moving to the city portion, they're not textured. They're completely untextured on the back. Again, we pointed out before, but you can see this for yourself now. And finally, I thought it'd be fun just to go to the Breath of the Wild Tower stage at the Great Plateau Tower. Again, covered it before, but we can get a better look at the stage boundary. Well, first off, we get a better look at how tall the tower is, and it's really neat in VR. It's really cool just to look down and see this giant structure that stretches down to you, down to the ground. And this is all fully rendered right here, except for the backdrop, beyond the wall. But this is all legit geometry. Now, what's not legit is, as soon as you move the camera too far to the left, is you can see where the world cuts off. And on top of this, most of this background is fake, by the way, as we pointed out before. That is mostly like a 2D backdrop, except for the very bottom edge here. The rest is all fake, but it's very convincing in game, and we can see where it cuts off on the environment and just reveals a blue skybox. On the right, on the other side, same thing. We can see just east of the Twin Peaks, or south of the Twin Peaks. We can see the exact same thing, a circular cutout in the world, but again, a whole lot's there. In this case, the entire backdrop, almost the entire screen, like before, but even more so, is fake. The only part that's real is a slight edge of the wall down below. I just, don't want to delete that. I just realized I should have been hiding that freaking toolbar the entire time. Sorry, guys. Whatever. I told you this was a sloppy video. Oh, I gave it more of it. You can see this giant hole in the back, and we can even see where the sky cuts off there too, at the top portion. And I think that is it. Woo! That was a lot to get through. So there you guys go. That's a quick look at what you can do in Labo VR to reveal more of the environment you were never meant to see. It's a cool mode, not just for this reason, even though it is fun for that, but just in general. It's just a neat mode to play around with and get different angles on the environment, on the Smash gameplay that's happening. It's just really fun to play around with. Is it worth buying Labo VR for? No, it's not. But it's a cool perk if you already have one. And since we just wrapped up with Breath of the Wild, I do love Labo VR in Breath of the Wild. It is such a cool addition, even if it takes some getting used to. So there you guys go. That's a look at all the secrets I was able to find so far. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below if you found anything cool yourself. And again, make sure to check out our previous 2 videos if you haven't already, as I went into even more depth, far beyond what we covered here. Well, not far beyond, but a far more bigger secrets of things that we weren't able to cover here. So check those out, and with that, thank you so much for watching, and of course, stay tuned to GameXplain, and make sure to click the subscribe button and that bell if you haven't already to stay up to date on everything Smash Brothers, Labo VR, and everything else Nintendo as well. We'll catch you later. Bye.